Chloe. This time is The Killer Next Door, a story I heard from Korea. It's about the darkest, narrowest space hidden behind a city's glamour and the madness of a man that exploded there. First, have you ever heard of a goshiwon? It's a unique kind of housing in Korea, totally different from an apartment or a dorm. Picture an old commercial building where one floor is partitioned into dozens of tiny, tiny rooms. Each one is barely big enough for a bed and a desk. Most don't even have windows, and the walls are so paper thin you can hear the person next door sigh. It's a place where countless lonely souls live as strangers, separated only by a wall, breathing in a suffocating silence. That is the stage for our story. All sorts of people with their own dreams lived in this goshiwon. There was Miss Kim Sen-ya, an alias, a Chinese-Korean woman working at a restaurant day and night to save up for her son's surgery. There was Ma Jun-gi, an alias, a young man studying for job interviews, and Miss Choi Chung-im, an alias, a mother of two who had left home so she wouldn't be a burden to her family after getting sick. And there was one more, a 21-year-old girl named Sejin, an alias. She was actually studying abroad in China, but she secretly came back to Korea to earn her own tuition after her dad's business took a hit. She told her dad she was staying with her aunt, but in reality, she was living in this tiny goshiwon room working 13-hour shifts at a restaurant. October 20th, 2008, a Monday morning, 8 a.m. The goshiwon was quietly stirring to life, but at that moment, in a corner room on the third floor, Chong Song-jin, an alias, was looking at himself in a small, cracked mirror. There was no emotion in his eyes. He calmly put on black clothes, a headlamp on his forehead, and swimming goggles over his eyes as if performing his own ritual. A single thought echoed in his head. The world never looked at me, but today everyone will look at me. He pulled out a 50-centimeter-long sashimi knife he'd hidden under his bed. He opened his door, poured gasoline in the hallway, and lit it. Fire! Miss Kim Sen-ya's scream tore through the hallway. In an instant, the corridor was filled with thick black smoke. People screamed and ran for the only exit. But at the end of the smoke-filled hall, a bizarre figure was slowly walking towards them. It looked like a monster from the deep sea, dressed head to toe in black, with a headlamp, goggles, and a gas mask. And in his hands were a long sashimi knife and several smaller blades. The monster swung his knife without hesitation at Miss Kim Sen-ya as she fled the smoke. A scream, and the narrow hallway instantly turned into a living hell. The only way out was blocked by a killer. The fire alarm blared, and more people rushed out of their rooms. People running for their lives were cut down by the killer waiting for them. Miss Choi Chung-im ran out screaming and saw Sejin, the 21-year-old student, cowering on the floor, paralyzed by fear. Just as the killer's knife turned towards Sejin, Miss Choi used her last ounce of strength to grab both of the killer's arms. "Honey, run!" was her final scream. The killer stabbed her repeatedly, and in the end, both Miss Choi and Sejin lost their lives on the spot. After 40 minutes of terror, the police and firefighters arrived. 6 people were dead, 7 seriously injured. The scene was horrific. But one police officer noticed a man being helped out of the building by paramedics. He claimed to have burns on his hands, but he had way too much blood on his shoes and clothes with not a single knife wound. That man was the killer, Chong Song-jin. In that short time, he had ditched all his weapons and gear, deliberately burned his own hands, and was hiding among the victims, pretending to be one of them. Why did he do it? He told the police, "The world ignored me." He had been bullied his whole life, had failed multiple suicide attempts. Instead of killing himself, he decided to attack others. He thought, if I kill a few people, maybe the police will kill me. The final trigger was something small, a fine for dodging military reserve training and pressure to pay his overdue goshiwon rent. Under that pressure, he executed the murder plan he had saved on his computer for 4 years, a file titled The Final Highlight of My Life. Chong Song-jin was sentenced to death, but he's still alive in prison as Korea has a moratorium on executions. But the 6 ordinary people who were just starting their day with their own small dreams never came home. And Se-jin's father, Mr. Se Bang-ho, an alias, who thought his daughter was safe at her aunt's house, had to face his daughter's cold body at the morgue. He said in that moment, the entire world went silent. He couldn't tell if the girl in front of him was the same daughter who had smiled and said, "Dad, I'll go study abroad and come back successful." His world collapsed there. Chloe, it's just such ordinary people destroyed in an instant at the most unexpected moment by a killer who lived right next door. A tiny room in the city is a place to nurture a dream for some, but for someone else, it was a place to nurture madness. It's a terrifying and sad story.